We are very excited to have one of our longtime collaborators and one of my dear friends come for our first Artisan Spotlight. Introducing the fabulous, the amazing MKM. Come on down.
Hi, buddy.
Hi.
How are ya?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good.
We're so excited to have you on. So I just wanted to ask a little bit about your artisan journey. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'd love to. Well, I began when I was very, very little, as most probably do. I love to sing and dance around the house all the time, and it just sort of kind of blended into me going to church. And my mom encouraged me to then join the church choir, and then from there I managed to join the leadership of the church as a cantor, probably one of the youngest that they'd ever had at that time. And then from there I just wanted to play a different instrument, because singing's great, don't get me wrong, singing's great, I love to sing. But what about playing the piano too? Love that plan. One of my favorite musicians of all time growing up was Amy Lee from Evanescence, and she loved to play and sing, so I was like, why not? Why don't we do both? And I just kind of I kind of dove into the piano game, and I kind of fell down a rabbit hole.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How so?
Well, initially it was just the desire to be like her and to write music and explore that area, and then I decided to study it in college, and I fell into a classical rabbit hole of being very intricate into the work, and to the point where I discovered that pop music isn't the only route. That writing music just like how she did was not the only option out there, and I found that I actually didn't have the talent to write it in that regard, and I actually was much better just doing it classically.
Really?
And yeah. As you know, for your music for your channel, it's very orchestral.
Yes. Wow. So I hear you have other ventures too. Tell me a little bit about your book. I know you've been writing that.
Oh, well, it's a fantasy novel. It takes place in a sort of high-low fantasy world combination, where it has, the main world that it takes place in, that we experience in that particular book, that's more high fantasy based. It very Lord of the Rings-esque, where with different creatures, with different types of magic, and then there's the low fantasy aspect where it's our world that we're used to, more or less, and they're kind of interacting together. And so like the high fantasy world bleeds into the low fantasy one, which gives it the low fantasy qualities, and then the low fantasy's influencing the fantasy ones, giving sort of like electricity. And we're running water in places where, in Lord of the Rings, they didn't have that.
Right.
Which I think was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool. But the main idea is to not get rid of the fantasy.
Okay.
It's not overdo it to
Right.
the point where, like in the new Zelda game, somebody let somebody loose and Link ended up with a motorcycle. So we don't want that.
Yeah.
So that's too far.
Right.
I mean, maybe not, but it's still too far for right now.
Yeah.
It's too far. So that's partly the cool thing I liked about when creating the world. It was being able to do both.
Right.
As for the magic system, it's very elemental in places, where some species of creatures, they all have different powers. Some of them have fire abilities, some of them have ice abilities. And then beyond that, people who live in the desert, they can make themselves invisible, almost like the mirage effect, like they can hide themselves. And then there's people who live on the mountains, and they've got strength where they can like move the big rocks and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's really, really fun. The main plot of the first one, because this is a series of books, the main plot for the first one deals with a group of refugee children who were trained as military, essentially, to come back into the land that they've left to try to help fix it.
Right.
So the main characters are leaving, what they grew up in, and they're coming back. They have to hunt. They're hunting down this amulet that's supposed to lead to a great power that could save the world, or is prophesized to do so. But the main character's memory is immediately wiped as the book begins. Okay. So she's got no idea what's going on. So we're able to go with them on her journey, like using her as a self-insert. Like each of us can pretend to be her, because we're as clueless as she is.
Yeah.
So we can go with her through it and experience the world as she's building through.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about your main character, the one whose memory got worked?
Well, that's the thing. You're supposed to figure it out as you go along with her.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So in writing your book, I know it rippled into other avenues, right?
Yes.
Because you kind of combined the composing aspect, the book aspect, and then I hear you created a ballet out of that.
I did. It was kind of I didn't mean for it to happen. It's like everything else. It was an accident. I wanted to sort of write mood music initially for the book. It was the idea initially when I was discovering composition to the effect I was at that point. It started as mood music to kind of like, play with the book, like an album that would come out with the book and people could listen to it and go chapter by chapter. That was the initial plan. And then when I got to my next school, I was sitting down with one of the professors and he's like, well, wouldn't it be cool if we made it into like a ballet or something like that, give it a theatrical aspect to it? And I'm like, that's a great idea. And I've always loved Tchaikovsky. I wished I could have been a ballerina. It was like my one life passion. I could never truly reach. I have bad knees.
Oh,
and I'm too short. Well, no, am I too short? I don't know. I just don't have the right body proportions for that. But I have no dancing ability, or at least in that way. So don't argue with me. I see you laughing.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
I know.
I'm hilarious. I'm sorry.
Thank you. So, unrealized passion, something that I could experience in a different avenue that I never expected to when I was a kid, enjoying the Barbie Nutcracker and Swan Lake, was to write a full orchestral ballet, and I went a little crazy. But yeah, so it basically follows the same exact plot as the book does.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, I'm not going into all the details, but it follows it almost to a T. Mind you, there's extraneous details that are removed for streamlining. Almost like I prepped it for the movie before the movie even happened. Whoa! Crazy me. Jumping the gun, always.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's full orchestra with a piano / celesta and a harp. And there was another extra weird thing. A contrabassoon.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Thank you. Yeah. It was fun. It was fun to write it. It's fun to see it in the whole, yeah.
Well, how do you feel with writing the book and writing the ballet, there's probably challenges and stuff with each of them, but also highlights.
Yeah.
What do you feel was the difference, I guess, in writing the book versus doing the ballet?
Well, for the book, one of the main challenges was something that I had an English professor teach me was, what is the point? He really made, he's really talking about papers, but I think in a lot of aspects you can apply that to fantasy or just creative writing in general, of not having too much extraneous detail, not going too far, but at the same time, where's that line of being too far into too out of it? So it's just kind of getting that all down. And the third time I rewrote the book, it was sort of like, okay, let's make this a little bit more streamlined. Let's not have too much extraneous detail. Let's just kind of find our grounding point, find our center point. When it came to the ballet, the plot was already done, so that wasn't really the problem. The problem was more, in a musical sense, doing something exactly the same, was the streamlining of it. Because when it comes to music, you don't want it to get boring, but in a ballet sense, it has to keep moving, and it has to have a logical place that it's going to. So there's certain movements that I had to cut down from their original, they were bigger, and then I trimmed them, or I completely redid their sections because it just wasn't working. Right? So musically to writing wise, I had an easier time in the music one to look at the whole the whole overarching picture of the whole thing, because I could just hit play and I just could sit there and listen to it. Right? And then I was able to lay it out and be like, okay, why does this not sound right? With the book, it was more, I'm so into it in the sentence by sentence that getting the whole picture of the whole thing was really challenging for me. So that was where having an editor and having other people read it was extremely important, because I was too here and I needed somebody to look at it like this. And that I was lucky to have my editor who would do that for me. So love her for that.
I love that. love that. I'm just like taking it all in. That's incredible though. From like going to being like the youngest cantor and then going into music and things like that and then blowing it up into like the ballet is incredible.
Thanks.
And also you're an artist too, like you do like artwork and things like that.
I do.
How'd you get into that?
That one was, well, it's always me falling into something. Well, my aunt is an artist, so I always admired her ability, and I didn't feel like I had talent growing up at all, but I didn't, I know, I didn't really feel like I could actually like draw until I kind of haphazardly ended up in an art class in high school, and it just kind of happened, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take it, and I took it, and I was like, oh, I can actually do things. What? Okay, cool, okay, and then I just kind of ran with it, and I just kind of did most of it by myself, teaching myself how to draw with proportions and using gridding to try to help streamline the process. And eventually over time, the more, like with anything, piano, writing, doesn't matter, the more you practice, the better you get at it. And with art, it's the same idea. Is the more I did it, the easier it got, and the overly detailed I made it, and yada yada yada. And then I had another art class in college that I took that kind of helped. What did it help me do? I can't remember right now, but it did help me refine some of the skills that I already gathered from the high school class. But for the most part, I've been doing that on my own, just kind of as, you know, it's like a therapeutic thing, but also because I do enjoy doing it. I do go way too detailed sometimes with my stuff, but it's a lot of fun. But with my projects right now, with that, I'm working on something for my best friend who's taking me way too long to finish, but it's okay. I'm loving it. It's one of my first real concepts that I made for myself, and I didn't use somebody else's reference. For the most part, I do use reference photos, and I do copy their work in a with charcoal. My favorite medium is charcoal on paper. It's a lot of fun to do, and I've been trying to get more into painting, and that's been interesting. And then I'm going to start doing murals and large-scale paintings later. I'm drawing a map for the book.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been trying to piece that one together. It's been a different kind of process because learning how to use Photoshop is fun. Yeah, so I've got a lot of fun little projects going on. Somehow I'm trying to balance all of it. It's a lot.
Wow. So for the mural, like what kind of thing are you thinking, like what kind of concept are you thinking for the mural? Is it more so like people, or is it more like landscape? What are you thinking with that?
It's going to be a piano focused one.
Oh, nice.
I'm doing it for a local piano store. I'm going to be doing something for their piano room. Wow. So I already have the concept done. I'm just, well, more or less, I just got to finish it up. So that way I can actually get started.
Oh my gosh. She's the triple quadruple threat over here. Not only does she do art and painting, and then you did your ballet, and then your books, and I love how all of them seem to kind of intermingle together in such a way. I love it because like the book, and then you combine the music. I just think it's all so fascinating. You're just such a talented person. That's so cool.
Buddy.
Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you.
Thank you so much for coming on today. MKM, everyone, our composer, an amazing person.